Being financial independent, you probably heard this term many times before. What is it exactly? Why are so many people chasing this? And how much money do you need to be financially independent? That and more in today's video. But before we dive in, please do me a favor, like, subscribe, comment, share the video with your friends, or press the bell, press all so that you don't miss anything. And now let's dive straight into the content. According to Wikipedia, financial independence is the status of having enough income to pay one's living expenses for the rest of one's life without having to be employed or dependent on others. Income earned without having to work a job is commonly referred to as passive income. Well, there you go. So actually in plain English it says that financial independence is having a lot of money so that you never have to work again, or having enough money that generates passive income that covers your expenses without having to touch that initial investment. And that passive income, that could be anything. It could be dividend out of stocks, rental income from properties, or maybe royalties. Actually, even more simplified explained is just that you have enough money to never work again and live your life. So now that we know what financial independence is, we can also much easier understand why so many people are chasing this. Because let's be honest, if you have a huge amount on the bank, or you have enough money on the bank that generates passive income, you never have to work again. So the only question that you have then is, what am I going to do with the rest of my time and the money that I have? You can spend on your friends, your family, your favorite projects. It is actually retiring with just time and money on your hands. Now, if you Google for how much you need to be financially independent, you see the wildest numbers going over the internet. From almost barely anything, which in my opinion is just clickbait because they want to make you believe that you don't need any money, to like millions, where it seems like being financially independent or retire early is just only something for the rich. Now, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle. I am going to show you with a very simple calculation how you, wherever you are in the world, whatever your income or your expenses are, how you can simply calculate for yourself how much you need to be financially independent. To do so, we are going to reverse engineer this. That means that we are first going to look at our cost to calculate how much we need to be financially independent. And in this case, I'm not going to calculate, you need X amount of million in the bank so you never have to work again. No, we are taking a scenario, having enough money as an investment, and take the generated passive income to cover your cost. And that is what we're going to do in this video. And trust me, it is super easy once you have once seen it. And everybody, I promise, everybody wherever in the world can do this calculation and can calculate what amount you need as an investment to generate that passive income so that you never have to work anymore and you are financial independent. All right, now let's start off with the cost. I wrote everything down in US dollars, and for the numbers I tried to go a little bit the average of Europe/North America. I can imagine that depending on the area where you live or the currency that you use, these numbers could be quite different. It's actually not so much about the numbers, it's more about the calculation method. So if you just understand what I'm doing, you can just apply it to your situation, your cost, your currency, and it works exactly the same. You can calculate to the result that you need. Right, first up, I wrote down rent or mortgage, and I used $1,500 to $2,000 a month. Now, I know in some places this is way too much, tiny villages or suburb areas, but there are also a lot of big cities where this is the average, or absolutely not enough to live there every month. Especially nowadays with the high housing prices and the rent prices just increasing year after year. I think $1,500 to $2,000 could be pretty average, pretty okay. After that is the utility bill. That's of course your electricity, gas and water. I wrote down $250 a month. I think that's kind of okay. If you live in a warmer area, you probably have a high electricity bill because the aircon. You live in a colder area, you have more heating. So I think the average of $250 a month in utility should be pretty okay. Next up, I wrote down a car, somewhere between $500 and $1,000 a month should do. I put everything in there. So that is in this case insurance, tax, maintenance, and depreciation. Some people have a tiny car, they will absolutely not make this. Some people have a huge car. Some people use public transportation. You know what, let's take the average of this one. Let's write down $750 for transportation, whatever that is, bus, train, car, whatever you're using. per month. I think $750 a month should be pretty okay. Food, this might not be enough. I wrote down $100 a week, so $400 a month. If you are alone, you can definitely make this. If you have a family and even 2 kids, this is absolutely not enough. I totally realize that. If you go out for dinners, this is also not enough. But if you would say, like I said, be alone or a couple, you don't go out for dinner, you only do groceries, you cook at home, I think $400 a month should be doable. And then last but not least, on the list number 5, I wrote down $500 just extra. Presents, when you go a day out or when you need to pay more for your groceries and $400 not enough, you can just use that. Add all these 5 up, you come to the total amount of $3,400 a month. I think this should be pretty average, and you should definitely be able to live from this $3,400 a month. Multiply this by 12, and then you end up at $40,800 a year. So this should be your yearly living expenses, $40,800 in this example. In other words, from your investments or savings, you want to have a return that at least covers that $40,800. Now, if we're looking at what kind of return the market gave us in the last 50 to 100 years, the average is around, I think, 7%. So the S&P 500, for instance, did around 7 or 8% a year. Let's say we take 7% a year, that's the average, and we divide the 40,800 by 7 times 100, we end up with the amount of $582,857. So that should be the amount that is invested, and then you should get a 7% return to cover your cost. And that could be anything, like it could be real estate, could be dividend stocks, could be royalties, could be interest rates, although the interest rates nowadays is super low, but should be doable. The 7% of course is absolutely not a guarantee. Can be higher, can be lower. For instance, the S&P 500 this year did, I think, like 18%. Last year it was like 18 or 20%, ridiculously high. These are extreme numbers, and this will absolutely not be now like the new norm for year after year. Matter of fact, there could be years where you have a negative return. But let's say you are able to beat the market, and you could do an average return of 10% a year. Now then your investment or the initial savings could be way less. So let's say we do the same calculation again on 10% return a year. We take the 40,800 divided by 10% times 100, and then we end up with $408,000. That shows that if you are able to only make 3% a year more, your savings or your initial investment could be $180,000 less. That is of course huge. Now let's for fun try to do this again, but then with a lower percentage, because like I said, not every year is great. Maybe some years will be pretty bad. Let's take 5% in this case. We do the same calculation, and then you will end up at $816,000 that you need with a 5% return to cover your cost. Now let's be honest, if you are going to retire and you just want to live off your passive income, you actually don't want to live from paycheck to paycheck because you don't want to touch your initial investment. You kind of want to live the life that you can just live wherever you want, drive whatever you want, do whatever you want. So you want to live a bit more of a fancy lifestyle, right? I totally get it. So let's do this calculation real quick just for fun. And now we're gonna take this fancy life scenario where there are not really limitations anymore. So let's take the same 5 topics that I just meant before and put different numbers under, and then let's recalculate again. So in this case, I put for rent or for mortgage $4,000 a month. Now, yes, I know that's a lot, but if you buy a very big house and let's say you have a pool and a gym and whatever, $4,000 a month, you can easily make that on rent or mortgage, easily. Utility bill, I doubled it, let's say $500 a month, because of course if you have a bigger house you probably also have much higher costs for electricity, water and all that kind of good stuff. And then for a car, let's be honest, if you can drive whatever you want, you're probably gonna get that Mercedes or a Porsche or whatever. If you can afford it, why not? So $2,000 a month on transport, which will most likely be your dream car. Food, I wrote down $1,000 a month. Of course, you're not going to eat more food, but more likely that you're going to go to better restaurants or buy better products now that you can afford it. So $1,000 a month for food, I think should be absolutely doable and okay. The extra, I now put it to $1,000 because yeah, you also will have a bit more of a relaxing lifestyle where you can spend and not really think about it. So, you know, to cover the cost, I think 1,000 extra to fill in however, wherever you want, I think is pretty good. Then you have a spending habit of $8,500 a month, which totals up to $102,000 a year. Is a lot. Matter of fact, lately I also wrote a few articles that some millennials, some couples together make $100,000 a year and spend it all. I have no idea how they manage to do so, but yeah, that nowadays seems more and more the norm. I still think it's quite a high yearly expenses, but let's say $102,000 a year. You can do whatever, whenever you want. How much investment do you need then? Now let's say we take the average again, the 7%. That is our benchmark. Do the same calculation and we end up at $1,457,142. So let's say $1.4 million, $1.5 million. You need to have to get a 7% return to live this lifestyle that you where you can do whatever, whenever. So there you go. That is the simple answer to the question: how much do you need to be financially independent? Depending on your lifestyle, depending on your cost. Just first make sure that you know what your costs are, what your spending behavior is, then reverse engineer it, take the benchmark 7% and calculate with that. Yes, there are also people who don't like to invest and just live off their savings. Then the calculation is super simple. You just take whatever you spend per year times the X amount of years that you want to retire earlier, let's say 10 years or 30 years or whatever, and you live off that. But yeah, you know, we just see that when you have a lot of money, $500,000, million, more, it's most likely that you're going to invest that money in some kind of asset, may it be real estate, stocks, whatever, because you're not getting anything in return on your saving account nowadays. So that's why it's most likely those people will invest their money, and you will as well. So yeah, there you go. I hope you like this video. Hope you learned something. If you do, or you think this is useful for other people, share the video, comment, like, of course. You will help out the channel tremendously. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.